everyone, and thanks for joining today's Channel Vision webinar sponsored by C3 Complete. Today's topic is next generation email security and why it's a powerful revenue opportunity for your customers. Our featured presenter today is Darin Gull, who is Director of Business Development at C3 Complete. If you have any questions for Darin, feel free to enter them here in the Zoom portal, and be sure to stick around for a live Q&A at the end of the event. So let's jump in and get started. Darin?
I appreciate the introduction, and I thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your day to join us in this. Let me get my screen shared here. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. We're going to go ahead and get started talking about C3's next generation email security product, a new revenue opportunity for MSPs. We're taking a look inside the modern email threat landscape and the AI-powered platform that can turn risk into recurring revenue. So let's talk about email and where this is where business and cyber attacks meet. Email is the backbone of daily business operations and has become the most attractive target for cyber criminals. These are some of the challenges that your customers face. Email attacks are the number one method of the way attacks start. Sensitive data is constantly being moved via email. And AI-powered phishing attacks are getting better and tricking the sensors much more frequently, along with compliance requirements continuing to increase. And we all know that human error can happen, and it just takes one email. So today's attacks aren't only through spam. The bottom line is the modern email security isn't just about blocking spam. It's about protecting people, data, and business from today's evolving threats. Every organization that uses email has valuable data worth protecting. So let's talk about what's at stake here. Email is still the number one way attackers get in. 1 in 4 emails is either malicious or unwanted spam. The hostile inbox is now the default. It's not the exception. Email remains the most common attack vector and an easy entry point straight to the corporate network. 36% of all data breaches involve phishing. And the median employee clicks a phishing link within about 21 seconds, which is faster than most automated defenses can react. So every threat class, whether it be business email compromise, ransomware, account takeover, it all starts in the inbox. So the threat landscape in 2026, this is what the picture looks like by the numbers. 3.4 billion phishing emails are sent every single day. 82.6% of phishing emails now contain AI-generating content, which makes it look much more authentic. It's not those easy spelling errors that we used to see back in the day. And again, that 21-second median time for an employee to click a phishing link. 2.77 billion is the reported business email compromise or BEC losses to companies. And 4.88 million is the average cost of a phishing-related data breach in order to remediate that breach, along with 3.8 million distinct phishing attacks recorded globally in 2025. So let's take a look at the landscape and what legacy gateways keep missing. This is basically some of the top 9 things you're going to see that come through in a traditional filter that will be stopped with our platform. So business email compromise. Again, this doesn't have to contain malware. It can just be a straight email to start a conversation. AI generated phishing. Again, as we said, it's getting stronger, much more believable than it used to be, and looks very authentic. Vendor compromise. It doesn't have to necessarily be coming from a malicious email. If one of your vendors has an account compromised, you could have a legitimate source email coming through, which is going to bypass because they're in your trusted list and get right into your corporate environment. And then the what's called an internet account takeover, or an ATO, where someone gets a hold of credentials for one of your users and now they're sitting inside your network. Conversation hijacking, where they'll let a conversation start and jump in. QR code phishing, or what's called quishing, attacks are on the rise. And then display name spoofing, where it looks like it's coming from someone, but it isn't. And this is where someone could actually be spoofing email as you if you don't have the proper filter set up. And zero-day payloads and time-of-click attacks. That's where it's not necessarily malicious until you click the link and it redirects you to a platform outside of that. So our platform uses AI-driven behavioral analysis rather than just static rules. scanning emails in real time using optical character recognition to detect hidden text in images, and evaluating the sender's true writing style to prevent spoofing and business email compromise. So the number one threat is still phishing, and it's gone industrial with the power of AI. Volume is staggering. Roughly 3.4 billion phishing emails hit inboxes every day, with 3.8 million distinct attacks noted in 2025. Generative AI has removed the telltale signs. You can't see those spelling errors or mispronunciations of words. So 82.6% of analyzed phishing emails now contain AI-generated content. AI spear phishing achieves a 54% click rate, matching expert human attacks. It used to be only the best could get through with that kind of a click rate. Think of how much lower it costs them, 95% less cost to generate it. And let's not forget that phishing as a service is out on the dark web. You can, for $20, buy a kit that will let you be a polished, targeted campaign at scale going after other companies' businesses. That's rather frightening. Let's take a real-world look at it. It's called a phishing attack or a QR code phishing. This was one done. Obviously, the company name has been changed a little bit, but that's fine. So what this looks like is this is coming from the HR department giving a QR code. And so the email appears to come from HR department is instructing the recipient to click on the QR code to review their benefits selection. So what was blocked here? If they had actually clicked on this email, if it had gotten to the inbox, that could have started what's called an account takeover or an ATO. How is it stopped? Our next-gen email security actually extracted and decoded the QR code embedded in the PDF. So it detonated it in a sandbox, not on the user system, and determined that this was confirmed to be a brand impersonation, credential harvest, and the email was blocked before the CEO could scan it. So this actually never made it to the inbox, and that's the power of our system, is it's going to keep these things from getting in the hands where a user could accidentally click on it. Had this gone through, this was going to be close to a credential harvest, and this would have led into them actually having full access behind all your filtering. Threat number 2 is the BEC, or the business email compromise. This is a quiet threat with the loudest losses. How the attack works: attackers impersonate a trusted executive, a vendor, or a partner. They don't need malware to do this. They're just trying to get your attention. They may take a legitimate invoice and alter it, convincing it forgingly directly to direct you to payment to a source that's not the intended vendor. In many cases, the real account is compromised. So this actually could be coming from one of your vendor's emails, which would look like it's a trusted. But what the telltale signs to look out for is they're actually pressuring you into urgent action to create this unauthorized wire transfer. Now, I know if you're like me, you're thinking, who could be so stupid to click on these emails? Well, if you look at the numbers, 2.77 billion is the reported BEC losses from 21,442 complaints in 2024. Also, 73% of reported cyber incidents in 2024 were BEC related. So the cumulative BEC loss has peaked past the 3 billion mark. So this isn't a joke. This is very much a big threat to your users and also your own business. So let's take a look at, here's an example of a BEC fraud with a CEO thread forgery. So again, they came in the middle of a thread on an attack. And if you look at it, you can see it looks like the email came from the CEO, John Mitchell, with his company email of j.mitchell@company.com. But when you look closely, you'll notice that the O in the company is actually a 0. So how does this block? It triggers a threat intelligence matching the sender's domain to a known BEC infrastructure cluster. The forger approval thread and financial urgency framing triggered our behavioral BEC detection, and this email was quarantined before it ever reached the finance department. So if this email had gone through, this could have led to a substantial loss in a wire transfer that it's almost impossible to get back. The third type of threat is what's called a stolen inbox becomes attack platform. So what happens is 20% of organizations had at least one account takeover or an ATO incident every month. Credential abuse is a single leading initial access vector behind 22% of breaches. A compromised mailbox fuels lateral phishing, trusted internal emails that sail past filters, and nearly a quarter of all HTML attachments are malicious, and 83% of malicious Microsoft 365 documents hide QR codes that lead to phishing sites. Threat 4, the one that gets talked about the most, I think, is ransomware and malware. And email is the front door for ransomware. Email is a primary delivery mechanism for ransomware. Malicious links and attachments are the first stage in the kill chain. And in 2024, ransomware damages reached roughly $57 billion, even as direct ransom payments fell down to $813 million. Now let's take a look at that. That's a 70-to-1 ratio. So for every dollar paid in ransom, the actual effect on the business was $70 in downtime, recovery, legal, and reputational cost. That's a huge risk. Attackers layer QR code phishing, known in malware variants and AI impersonations, to slip past native defenses. This is kind of similar to the example we looked at earlier. So what's the gap here? Native filters and legacy gateways miss the modern attack. 48% of companies have not configured a DMARC policy, leaving their domains open to spoofing. What does that mean? In a DMARC policy, you're setting rules as to exactly where your mail server is, and it doesn't allow someone to bypass that or spoof that, so they cannot send out email as your organization. 76% of organizations are not actively preventing spoofing email at all. 79% of organizations still suffer at least one security incident in the past year. And 99% of phishing emails missed by other solutions would be stopped by C3's complete inbound shield. Why this gap exists? Legacy secure email gateways were built for spam and the virus era. Signature matches can't be caught by such as payload-free BEC. Native Microsoft filtering routinely lets AI-crafted phishing emails through to your inbox. Again, as AI is helping people write these emails, they're becoming much more authentic looking and much harder to detect. And when you do a bolt-together solution, if you have a premise-based filter, now you're bolting on to for your encryption and your DLP or your data loss protection, and that leaves gaps that the threat attackers can exploit. So the answer is C3 Complete's next-gen email platform. It's one AI-powered platform that gives you complete email coverage. We'll take a look at the three main pieces of it. The inbound shield, which we touched briefly on. This gives you multi-layer AI scans for every inbound email. So before you ever see the email, it's actually being scanned and processed by the system. Any links are checked in a sandbox to determine if they're malicious. If that is the case, they never make it to your inbox. It blocks impersonations, spoofing, spear phishing, and business email compromise, or BEC. Again, the full URL file scanning on any device. So this isn't tied to your work computer. You could be checking this on your cell phone. You could be checking it on a home computer, and it's going to give you the same protection no matter where you're accessing your email. It filters spam and gray mail before it lands. You can actually set the time of how many times a day you want to be notified of emails that are caught by the system, and you'll get a report, whether you want it hourly, in 6 hours, or daily as to those emails that are caught. The outbound shield. This gives you one-click 256-bit AES email encryption. This helps with data loss prevention and stop sensitive leaks. If you have a compliancy in your business, this will prevent a user from sending out an email that violates your compliancy, because the policy set up across the organization can be done in minutes, and it gives you complete compliance within 10 frameworks with a single click. So it's literally you check boxes of what type of compliancy you need to meet. Whether it be HIPAA, FERPA, whatever the compliancy, you check the box and it will automatically encrypt those sections of the email that need to be encrypted. but not encrypting the entire email so you don't have people getting an email that literally says, click here to, you've received an encrypted email, click here to unencrypt it. If that doesn't look like a phishing email, I don't know what does. And when we implemented this internally in C3, we saw a huge reduction on our support calls relating to this particular issue with the email encryption. The third vector of this is our ATO protection, or the account takeover. What this system is doing, it starts out by learning each user's normal behavior. It flags any anomalies from contextual signals and contains compromised accounts quickly, so it stops lateral phishing at the source. So the other thing we always do recommend is that you help having what's called SAT, or security awareness training. This takes the greatest weakness of human error and makes your employees one of your strongest assets in your cyber resilience plan. So let's take a look at the everything in the threat that we looked at earlier and how it maps to a C3 complete defense. Phishing and spear phishing, our inbound shield. Again, the AI text analysis plus full URL and file scanning is going to catch these as they arrive. BEC impersonations. Again, this may not be an email that contains a virus or malware. So with AI detection of spoofing, lookalikes, and have what's called anomalous senders. So it looks for something that looks like it's, if you're just with the naked eye, appears to be a legitimate email address, but might have a character altered, and that makes it a malicious account. On an account takeover, behavioral ATO protection with contextual signals. So it's actually looking again, is this behavior that the person would normally be doing? Would your CEO be emailing a entry level tech and, asking them to send them money or something like that? So anything that looks like normal is going to be caught by this. Data leakage and compliance, your outbound DLP, or data loss prevention, with the one-click 256-bit AES encryption. Domain spoofing, it is covered by our email authentication and DMARC enforcement support. So it's actually making sure that someone is not sending email on behalf of your organization without it going through your system and your security. And then, of course, the human error with a security awareness training. You can have literally under 2-minute little quick videos, and even do phishing campaigns with emails that look like, based on emails you actually received to your organization, and send out to see which people in your organization need a little bit more training. So as a partner, why is this of value? Because this whole platform is purpose-built for resellers, VARs, and MSPs. One platform will give you full coverage, so you can retire the multi-vendor stack, having inbound encryption, DLP, and, training not integrated into the system. It is a pretty high margin revenue, and it's recurring, so it creates stickiness with the subscriptions to security and compounds with every renewal cycle. Bigger deals are easier to sell, adding security and compliance to every opportunity with simple licensing models. So this is something that can be trued up monthly as your clients grow, and giving them full security across all their users, no matter where they are. It's easy and fast to deploy with very low overhead. So it gives you stand-up protection in minutes with minimal support tickets to manage. In fact, it will help to reduce some of the support tickets you see. And as an MSP, I think the highlight is it's a multi-tenant portal, so you can see all of your customers in a single portal. You can also brand the portal with your logo and your colors, so it looks like it's your tool that you're offering to your customers. And it's also backed for scale. There's a substantial investment made to make sure that this is continuing to fuel and stay ahead of the curve, to allow MSPs to be very focused as part of the roadmap in this solution. So why C3 Complete? And why is our modern platform more secure than the previous email gateways, the legacy systems? Well, our platform is cloud native, so it deploys in minutes. There's no appliance to put at your customer's prem. Our AI first detection is tuned for BEC and AI phishing. The inbound, encryption, DLP, and training, it can all be in one platform. Multi-tenant management built for MSPs, and this is a 5-star Gartner Peer Insight rating. When you compare that to the legacy, secure email gateways, often they're premise-based. heavier to deploy. You have to actually send somebody on site, and harder to tune and maintain with patches. It's signature era engines, so they often miss payload-free BEC or business email compromises. The encryption, DLP, and training are often bolted on as point products. And the multi-tenant support can be complex or an add-on for added cost to you. And higher management and support overhead. So when you joined this webinar, you saw that one thing that we were doing is we're offering a free threat scan to everybody who attends the webinar. Now, this tool is available to you when you partner with C3, and it's the easiest sale tool you'll ever use. This just goes in line with their existing security. And when this is run, we're finding on average 6 to 10% the amount of malicious emails that we detect that bypass their filters that are currently in place. It's very low touch, quick to run with minimal effort from you. It identifies real risks, so it surfaces threats that are already there, slipping past their existing defenses. It builds trust because it takes that conversation away from being a sales pitch into giving them credible evidence-based advice as to here's what's being missed by your current system and how we can protect you from that, which ultimately leads to winning more deals. By using this tool, you'll find you'll convert roughly 80% of opportunities into touches where you're actually now going to a deeper dive discussion on their email security. So, in conclusion, what's the opportunity here? You're turning rising email threats into recurring revenue. Threats are escalating and increasingly AI-driven, which does make them harder to detect. Email is the top attack vector across phishing, business email compromise, account takeover, and ransomware. Most customers are underprotected. Unconfigured DMARC, spoofing gaps, and legacy gateways have the inbox exposed. C3 answers this with one AI-powered, easy-to-sell platform, giving you complete coverage with minimal overhead. So for the next steps, we'd encourage you to reach out. I'm going to have my contact info on the next slide. And let's book a demo or set up and give you your free security scan and see where it stands. And at this point, I think we're ready for questions.
All right, Darin, thank you for the great overview there. Yeah, let's dive into the Q&A here. We got a couple in the queue. Keep them coming. Starting from the top here, and this is actually a great question because we see this phrase "sophisticated threats" all the time. But what do you mean by sophisticated threats? How do I know if my current tool is stopping them?
Yeah, so I mean, sophisticated threats are changing daily. As the AI gets better, the tools get better. These threats look real, and so really, if you're not using a tool that is actually using AI to analyze each email that comes in, again, the other thing could be is it's maybe coming from a trusted source. That's where you talk about vendor compromise. So that email could be coming from one of your existing vendors, a legitimate email. You didn't get compromised, but they did. Well, they're a trusted domain in your existing system. That email comes through and looks legitimate, and you're likely to click on it. So sophisticated meaning they're not just directly targeting the inbox, but they're getting creative. They're targeting your vendors. They're targeting your employees. People with, bring your own device to work. A lot of that happens, BYOD. That can also create security risks on your network. So every tool you can use, and this is just covering the email. There's other tools. Security is a multi-layered approach, and the more tools you put in place, the better you are at catching them.
Excellent, thank you. Another question for you. Does your next gen email platform integrate with anything else in the cyber stack?
It can, in the sense of that you can tie in alerts, depending on what you're using as your monitoring tools, etc. You can tie those alerts in. There are API integrations, so yes, it can integrate with most other security products.
Fantastic. Okay, another question. This attendee says they're using a gateway because from Proofpoint, thinking that they were the market leader. Why do they keep seeing phishing emails get through?
Yeah, I'll speak to that directly. C3 used to be a huge Proofpoint partner, and we found gaps. Our VP of security actually found a way you could completely bypass Proofpoint We pointed it out to them, and it wasn't patched at the time. I'm not sure if it has been at this point in time, but sometimes companies get too big and they're not agile and nimble enough to keep up with the ever-changing threat vectors that are out there. So we started by running this platform behind our proof point. In that slide that you saw, there was an additional 6 to 10% of emails that were getting through that proof point wasn't catching.
Okay, fantastic. Here's a question about flagging emails. This attendee says they're finding threats. How do they know that a current tool wouldn't have flagged said emails?
I mean, there's no way for sure to know whether it would or wouldn't. All you can go by is the data that gets through the emails that are in your inbox. And one thing about our platform that's rather unique is when you click a link, it doesn't open on your machine. It's opening in a sandbox, meaning it's being tested to see if there's any malicious redirect, because a link in itself isn't malware, right? It's directing you to a site where it is trying to launch a malware. So the only way you can really protect against that is by opening it in a sandbox, which is what our tool does. So you're not exposing your user's inbox to that click, and it's not going to open on their machine until it's verified it is a legitimate clean click.
Okay, great. Guys, still plenty of time for questions. Keep them coming if you have them. We got a couple more here. Darin, how does your email platform compare to traditional legacy secure email gateways?
I think the biggest difference is it is AI based. And everybody's a little afraid of AI, I know, and they're like, it's going to take over the world. But used properly, AI is an amazing tool because it can take repetitive tasks of doing that deep dive analysis of what it's looking for. And no human eye can do that over and over and over as effectively as AI can. So the real power of the tool is the AI and how it's continuously being tweaked as the threat vector changes. It's tough to keep up with that. And, when you're doing a premise-based system, what do you do when your users are outside the office, et cetera? This tool is really designed for today's hybrid workforce and really designed to keep up with ever-changing threats. I mean, nothing is 100%, and this platform isn't 100% either, but it is about 99% more effective than most platforms out there.
A question for you about support. Now, C3 Complete is known for really offering excellent customer service, and extended support. What type of post-sale support do you offer for this product?
Yeah, as you said, C3 is known for our white glove support. So we don't expect our partners to go at this alone. When you partner with C3, we are completing your portfolio. We don't compete with what your secret sauce is and what you do, but we're there to support you at whatever level you need us to. We're going to help you to roll this out. We're going to make sure that everything's set up. We're available to help do demos. If you've got a client that's interested in this, we can actually walk you through and do the demo for you if you'd like us to. So whatever level you need us to touch, we're there. And we want to ensure it's successful. So our goal is we target MSPs that are struggling to grow without adding capital and help them to grow by partnering with C3 Complete. We expand their services portfolio and allow them to grow and gain larger clients without any added overhead to their existing business. So it truly gives them recurring revenue at a much faster rate.
Perfect. Again, still plenty of time here. Keep the questions coming. Let's talk verticals. What are some key verticals for next-gen email security?
Yeah, I mean, it's really for all businesses, but particularly if you have a compliance. I mean, finance, so whether it's banks, investment brokers, insurance, they all have compliance. Medical, there's compliance. Any government contractors, if you're doing business with the government, you have a requirement there. So it's really, the verticals are pretty much endless. And obviously for MSPs themselves, you have a compliancy requirement to your customers. So for us, C3 is a SOC 2 Type 2 certified company, not just our platforms, but we as a company. So there's certain regulations we have to follow in dealing with customers and protecting information. And this tool makes it much easier because every email, based on what compliance you need to meet, is encrypted the way it needs to be encrypted to ensure that you don't have any errors.
Darin, what about credential-based phishing, which is a big issue right now? Does your platform protect against credential-based phishing?
Yes, it does. And again, that comes from that behavioral analysis. And we use other tools in addition to help with that. So it's security is a multi-layered approach. So email is what we're talking about today, but there's also endpoint protection that you need to be running and watching and looking for malicious activity on your network as well. So that's the beauty of C3 is we can talk you through the whole stack. Today, we tried to stick specifically to the email stack.
Great. Another question for you here. Let's talk about how to approach customers. There's a lot of revenue to be made with email, but what are some tips for approaching customers about modernizing email security?
Yeah, I think the question is to just ask them, are they still seeing too many spam emails in their inbox? Do they question what could possibly getting through their existing system? And would they be open to running a scan and just seeing if there's any gaps in their current setup? I don't know too many people that say no to that question. When you hear free, that obviously gets people's attention. It doesn't interrupt their business. It's just basically listening behind the scenes and compiling a report of emails that it flags that got through the existing system. That's how we started. We ran it behind Proofpoint, and we were shocked at what it was catching that was getting through.
Well, Darin, I think the questions are coming to a halt here. I think that should probably wrap up today's presentation, unless you got anything else to add. Big thank you to. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, just to reach out to us, you've got my contact info, or you can just reach out to sales@C3Complete. Let's get you set up with your free scan. And, we'll also be reaching out to those who attended the webinar to see if you're interested in that free scan. That's the first step. Everything starts with that first conversation. Then you review the data and determine what to do with it.
Fantastic. Darin, again, a big thank you to you and the entire team over at C3 Complete, to all of you for attending. Just a reminder too, today's webinar will be available on demand following the event. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.
Sounds great. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everyone.